Hey, what's up, A-Push kids? We're here for our last lecture in period 3. Today we're covering topic 3.12, the presidency of John Adams. Now, this particular one doesn't have exactly an AP standard that's going to go with it. It kind of connects to the Washington standard about how political parties are going to continue to develop and disagree at this time, as well as some of the precedents that these different presidents state. But most of our stuff with John Adams is going to be connected to our state standards. So let's just kind of jump into the nitty-gritty of things of what we need to know. So Washington retires after 2 terms. He's going to hang it up because he doesn't want to set that precedent of dying while in office. And it's a good thing that he did. He would have died in office if he had served a 3rd term. Now, 1796, because Washington's retired, the 2 political parties are going to go at it. We're actually going to see 2 candidates for the first time. We see the Democratic-Republicans and the Federalists are both now going to campaign for president in 1796. The Federalist John Adams is going to win and defeat the Democratic-Republican Thomas Jefferson, winning the presidency, and it is close. It is a super close election. Total electoral vote count was only 139 back in the day. Adams only wins 51% of the vote, 71 to 68 votes. It was a very, very tight race between the 2 of them, and it was a pretty nasty race. But Adams, he wins the presidency, and he gets inaugurated. And kind of funny little side story is that while he's standing there about to take the oath of office, Washington's standing there next to him and essentially turns and says to him, you know, you're about to be the president, I'm about to be rightly out. I'm not sure which one of us is happier. Washington was definitely glad to be gone. And it's a good thing too, because Adams' presidency was not going to be the smoothest sailing. And much of it is due to what was happening on the high seas at that time. Because what was happening is the war between England and France was still going on and still causing huge, huge problems for the Americans. France was frustrated with us because, we didn't support them. They had supported us. Why weren't we supporting them? And they began to seize our U.S. merchant ships. Many of them, you have to remember, are going to England at the time. And so France, trying to cut off supplies to England, is stopping our shipping. And so Adams wants to try and stop this. What he does is he sends some diplomats to France to negotiate an agreement on American trade rights in Europe, to try and get essentially the French to stop interfering with our shipping. And so these diplomats go there, and 3 French officials, who were nicknamed X, Y, and Z in a private communication, are going to demand a bribe for our diplomats to meet with higher-up administrators within the French, higher-up French ministers. Now, this was incredibly insulting to American honor, and it was, in many ways, this was looked at almost an act of war. And the word of this entire thing got out, that the French officials, XYZ, had demanded a bribe, and many people were absolutely furious. We were offended by this. It becomes known as the XYZ affair, and many, many people call for war with France. Adams, though, keeps his cool. And rather than declaring war on France, a country that's across the ocean, which we should add, we didn't have a navy yet. So think about how we're going to fight a war across the ocean without a navy. By the way, Adams will start the navy at this time, but that's neither here or there. It's not going to be done for a couple of years. He's going to get a lot of criticism. A lot of people are going to criticize the way that he handled it. All he does is he just sends more diplomats. And he's actually able to negotiate at least a little bit of an agreement with France. But everybody calls him weak. Oh, you should have gone to war. You should have gone to war. Adams doesn't really take very kindly to the criticism that he had been receiving. And so the Federalists, along with Adams, are going to pass a new law called the Alien and Sedition Act. The law makes it a crime to criticize government leaders, specifically Adams. It also restricts citizenship for new immigrants and made it easier to deport immigrants as well. But this was really seen as an attack on free speech and an attack on citizenship, and it really backfired for John Adams. It also badly damaged not only himself, but also the Federalist Party. The Republican Thomas Jefferson and his ally James Madison are going to write a series of very strong rebuttals against the Alien and Sedition Act. These are going to be called the Kentucky and Virginia Resolutions. They attack not only the law, but also the Federalist Party. They also represented an important new argument for states' rights. Remember, that's one part of Jefferson's idea within the Democratic-Republican Party that was very important, the concept of having stronger state governments. And this new concept was the idea of nullification, or to be able to nullify, where states could nullify or ignore unfair national laws. Now, these arguments of states' rights and nullification would be used much later in 1861 by South Carolina and the rest of the South to secede and eventually start the Civil War. So because of not only his perceived weakness with the XYZ affair, but also the unpopularity of his Alien and Sedition Act, Adams and his Federalist Party were incredibly unpopular by the election of 1800. And so it's no wonder that Jefferson is going to be able to fairly easily defeat Adams in that election of 1800. Now, the election of 1800 itself marked an important turning point in U.S. history. It's the first time when one political party is going to transfer power from one to another. And it's also going to mark the beginning of a 30-year dominance by the Democratic-Republican Party in national office. It's why the election of 1800 is oftentimes referred to as the Revolution of 1800. Well, that ends our lecture for today. Until next time, go Pack.